Straw Hut Media.
Mr. Slim Jim Phantom.
With the plague.
He's got the plague, apparently. But
I got the brush clearance in L.A. when it rains plague.
That's why we're separated in the room.
Yes.
He's over there. I don't want to catch it.
Oh, man.
Where does the name Phantom come from?
Phantom was, I was always Slim Jim because my dad was Big Jim. And he was a big dude. He was a fireman in New York, and everyone called him Big Jim. And so I was always smaller. So I was Skinny Jim or Little Jim. So when Rockabilly came around, I had a built-in nickname kind of thing. I was Slim Jim, which we loved from the old Gene Vincent records, and everyone had a nickname: Galloping Cliff Gallop, Jumpin' Jack Neal. So. Slim Jim was good. And Phantom, my last name is McDonald, and I didn't know if it was too like Irish sounding, which at the time, now sounds crazy, but at the time I was in England and everyone was vicious or idle or rotten or so it seemed, and I loved the old Phantom comics, and that was just kind of, it came to me. I mean, I might have just...
Oh, it's cool. Jim. It's different, man. I always wondered. I never asked you that. I wondered if it was actually your real last name. But nobody's last name is Phantom, for Christ's sake. No, mine's McDonald, 2 N's and 2 L's, real Irish stuff. What about Stretch? Did they ever try to call you Stretch?
No, I was always like Skinny Jim, and then Eddie Cochran had the song called Skinny Jim, and I didn't like it because my dad was Big Jim and I was Little Jim or Skinny Jim or Slim. So I didn't really like it. All the best nicknames, you're not supposed to like them at the beginning.
I didn't like mine when I was a kid. My dad was a fireman too. I didn't know your dad was a fireman.
Yeah, New York City.
Wow, Jimmy, I did not know that.
And then I might as well make it work for me, Slim Jim, and it was
it's cool. It suits you, man. Once you got a name like that and people recognize you and you have a certain amount of success, the nickname sort of becomes something like a moniker. It's fun, it's Slim Jim. Even I've been calling you that for fucking years.
Yeah, everyone calls me that. And I say, what should I call you? I said, well, you can call me Slim, you can call me Jim, you can call me Slim Jim. And someone's always going to come up with Slimmy or Jim. No, come on. I just gave you 3 choices. That's got to be good enough. So then I wanted it to make it like, I don't know if you... in acting, I don't know quite so much, or maybe, Rockabilly the most. People tend to give themselves nicknames.
Yeah.
I'll meet this guy and his name is Hot Rod Joe. And well, who calls you Hot Rod Joe? Do you tell people to call you Hot Rod Joe?
I was
stuck with mine.
Cool.
I didn't like Skinny Jim for the first, 20 years. So then I learned to like it.
Yeah, call me Hot Rod Joe. Yeah, well, who told you to call yourself that? No, I made it up, man, because I think it sounds cool. Well, no, you can't do that.
Exactly right.
It doesn't work that way.
You have to earn these nicknames. You got to be peg leg or lefty or,
Yeah, it has to be something like subversively put down or something. What was your... I don't write down a bunch of goddamn questions because I think of shit. What was the first memory you ever have of picking up a pair of drumsticks, man?
Drumsticks, I remember... probably something to do with like TV. I'm too young for Beatles, although I love Beatles in that era. It would have been something that was in the 70s, probably. I don't quite remember what it was, but I knew that I wanted to play the drums. It looked like a cool job, something from probably Midnight Special or American Bandstand, somebody playing on that and thinking that it was a cool job. I like the whole idea of traveling around with the guys.
Yeah.
And, I liked the whole idea of like Hard Day's Night or something, that you're all together in it. And, like gang mentality, like, the Wild One or something, something like a pack. And I knew I couldn't be a biker. I wasn't quite, tough enough for that, but I knew I wanted to do something. And I wanted to play the drum, and I got my parents to get me drumsticks and a pad. Because no one would leap right into a drum kit. They needed to see that you were into it a little bit. So I took lessons and had a practice pad and would practice the 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 rudimentary exercises and that. And then after a year or so of that, they saw that you were serious, came home after the music lessons. The guy up the street, Massapequa Music, everyone took lessons there. It was $5 a week, and I had a pair of sticks and a practice pad. And then
what was the kind of music that had a drummer that you were relating to that you wanted to do that?
Off the bat, it would have been whatever the pop music was on the radio. And then when this was probably when I was about 12 or 13, I remember we liked Lee and I, because it was I think Southern rock was big, like Allman Brothers at that time. Marshall Tucker, Leonard Skinner. That was a little popular thing, and that's what you could do at the keg party. I mean, I'm a little bit young, but like in high school, whose ever parents went away, or someone had a backyard party, or they had a party that they were allowed to have a band at. Lee, I, a couple other ones I were in school with. That was the music that was there. And then that's when I started to kind of go a little bit deeper and see Allman Brothers, say, would have, they did a cover song by T-Bone Walker. Find out who's T. Walker. Okay, find out it was T-Bone Walker. Statesboro Blues, it was Willie McTell. That's how I went deep a little bit.
You're seriously into it, though. I mean, even what you just said, that's some serious choices there,
Yeah.
You were thinking of the big cats, man. You were thinking of the good guys, man, that started a lot of stuff. And, don't you think that's kind of you think it's a musical DNA, or that you're born with that kind of ambition towards that, or is it something that comes from God Almighty, or was it in your family or something?
No, that's the thing. My brother plays piano, but no one else in my family. My mother was not musical. My father's fireman. He wasn't. But my mother, I don't know if that kind of plays into it. She was an old movie person.
Okay.
Somehow I know old movies. Always have. She knew Joan Bennett versus Merle Oberon, or she was like, so I can always like to go deep. Like if you like I Love Lucy, find out who Lucy Ball liked. You know what I mean? And find her first movies. I was always that kind of under the surface one, and like it happened with the the blues or the Southern rock first, because that's what the other guys in school knew, and then I find out from Beatles who is C. Perkins, with the Rolling Stones who is C. Berry, who is, and just going backwards a little bit.
That's fascinating to me, because I can't play the goddamn drums, I can't play the guitar, but I always envied you as a musician. And when you're talking about the guys that you came into listening to, Leonard Skinner, my son Luke is way into Leonard Skinner, and I was like that with actors, like Kirk Douglas and Bogart and Robert Mitchum, and those were the cats that I was looking at, and I was going, man, look at that motherfucker, man. I know what he's doing, and
Now, when you
had that on your mom's side,
Now, when you were a kid and coming up in acting, you would have seen guys in the 70s, right? Paul Newman or so, and then would you want to find out who Paul Newman likes? Who does Al Pacino like? Who's the current guys? Who did they get it from?
Exactly. The first for me was Bogart, right? And Robert Mitchum. Way before, I started actually thinking I could do that.
Sure.
The black and white pictures, like even the Merle Oberon, the names you mentioned of your mom, those are very distinct, interesting names, Jim. Even I wouldn't have thought of that, but I was Ingrid Bergman and Betty Davis, and these powerhouses of people. I wanted to know who they were and why they did that. And so it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. It was, for me, like that with music, for sure. I would see, hear Allman Brothers or Leonard Skinner and find out who they liked, and I would go off. Imagine like some sharecropper guy in North Carolina, and he was working in the daytime and playing guitar at night, and then Gene Vincent would hear him, and then and then he was influenced by that, and then Beatles were influenced by Gene Vincent, and I was fascinated. I still am by by the chronology of the whole thing.
Have you ever had a chance to talk about any of this before?
About all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Not like this, no.
I
It's
didn't
you and
think
me
so,
gotta
Jim.
do
I
it.
didn't think so. I just thought, man, you're such an interesting guy. And you've always been like a decent friend to me. And we had a weird way of meeting because of Brian and my wife and all that. When did you first meet Brian? When did the Stray
Brian,
Cats start?
Oh, we were in grade school. Lee and I were the same age, are the same age.
Wow.
I'm about 4 months older than him, and Brian's 2 years older than us, which now it doesn't matter. Or when you were 19 and you were 17, it didn't matter. But when you were 13 and someone's 11, or someone's 15 and someone's 13, that's when it was a big, like 2 years difference. But we were always in the same school, and we always knew the.
How did you guys figure out that you were going to start playing music together? I mean, it's such a rare thing, Jim, to have turned out the way that it did for you guys.
Well, Lee and I, like I said, were in the same grade, and he played the bass and I played the drums. So you need each other, and he and I were in school every day, same classes and all that, and so we spent a lot of time just playing the bass and the drums, just two guys practicing along and trying to be a strong rhythm
Where the
section.
hell did he come up with playing the bass, for God's sakes? I mean, nobody does
He played
that.
electric bass, and I played a full drum kit. That there was more of a template
So when he's
for it
got
all.
that bigger instrument, what the hell? Where did that come from?
Yeah, that started when he was about. I think he and I were about 18 at that point. But pretty seriously, when we were 14 to when we were 18, we played a lot, and varying bands around school, and we had some older guys that played the blues. So we were a rhythm section, two young guys that would do it for no money, and were very tight at playing a shuffle and a swing. So
Wow.
around 1979, we got out of school, and Brian, who we always knew, was finding out the same as us. Like we went a step or two before classic rock, and find out who Beatles liked, who Rolling Stones liked, and that. And then we all found around the same time, from shared musical journey, found Buddy Holly and found Eddie Cochran and found Elvis Presley 55, and it was a very clear moment that, like, I have to do this. I wanted to be a pro musician, but even if I wasn't, if I worked at the liquor store, kept my regular job, I just would have looked like a rockabilly guy who worked at the liquor store or went to college or something. I didn't know. But we all found the same thing. Loved that look and loved the perceived lifestyle of it, right?
Who named you guys the Stray Cats?
Stray Cats, we arrived at because we were called we were the Tomcats, we were the Blue Cats, because on Long Island it was okay, but in New York City you could only play like once a month, and they were so afraid, they meaning the clubs, of the draw getting diluted. So you had to come up with a different name, like you were a different band every month. So we
cool.
but we were called the Tomcats, and mainly, and and then we went to London. We moved to London. We said, this isn't happening fast enough for us. We want to accelerate the process. Teddy Boys and Quadrophenia, that kind of thing, was in England. Let's move to England. Okay. So
That's a big jump,
three
man.
Long Island guys go to England. We get off the plane, and you said it was a good idea. No, you said it was we had nowhere to live.
Where the fuck did you live, for God's sake? I was going to say, how did you guys
we
do
had
it?
a couple $100 that went to a hotel for 3 days, kind of thing. We kind of were homeless. We fell in with some people who had a big punk rock house. We slept on the floor there for a while, and finally scratched out a few gigs. And we had a little bit of a reputation of these crazy guys from New York who have been, bumming around and turning up at parties or at the back of a gig or something. They finally have their own gig. Let's go check them out. Maybe they'll be good. Maybe they'll go home. Maybe. So we were on a little bit of a scene, and those original people that came down to the first few gigs were Lemmy, Joe Strummer, Chrissy Hynde, and it kind of got a little bit of a buzz going. And we were good because we had played so much in New York. We were very good at it. We played 5 nights a week, 4 sets a night. So we were very good at it. So by the time we got like a bit of a chance, we ran with it.
So you guys knew how good you were, basically.
Yeah, totally.
See, I love that idea. See,
we knew we were
I'm
good.
good. I know I'm fucking good.
The first time.
You. Yeah.
In New York, Lee and I had a band and Brian had a band that were maybe what you would call maybe new wave, or maybe, you know, like whatever the music was in the late 70s, right? But we had all found this rockabilly music, and we started to do what became the Stray Cats as our sideline band. Once a month, we'd play in New York City with our real bands, hoping to get a record deal or whatever. And then during the week and on the weekends, when we didn't have a gig in New York City, we would play with what became the Stray Cats. And the first time we did it, in a little corner bar with 10 people, we knew immediately that it was the best thing ever. And then we concentrated on that, and our other bands fell aside, and we concentrated on that.
Was Brian always the lead singer from the beginning?
Yeah. He was a natural. Brian was good since we were kids, you know. Lee and Brian both are like Mozart types. They're like prodigy.
Did you do any singles or you're singing?
No. I learned how to sing within the last, 10, 15 years. But in the beginning, Brian was the lead singer, and Lee's an excellent singer. Lee would have been the lead singer in any other band.
I did not know that.
Around us. But we were good right away, and we loved it. Because you were still finding out about it. Like, man, Eddie Cochran had 2 albums, and we would listen to find a record and learn all the songs and play them the same night, kind of thing. But we did that for a year around just bars on Long Island every night.
Danny used to tell me that Brian was really into Eddie Cochran. So
he would. Oh yeah. He was a natural kind of front.
Wasn't
guy.
he in some kind of movie about Eddie or something?
Brian did he played Eddie Cochran in a movie called La Bamba that was about the life story of Richie Valens.
Yeah. Did you ever meet any of those guys?
I knew Carl Perkins quite well. Worked with him on a few things. The original rock and rollers, I didn't. Eddie and Gene, Buddy Holly, they were all before me. Of the original American rock and rollers, I met Little Richard. I still know Wanda Jackson quite well. Carl Perkins was really the main guy, and like a few of the second tier ones, we met a lot of those ones. But I do know that I mean, if you could use Carl Perkins as the example of those guys, he said that we were like the real thing to him.
You guys are the real thing, man. You always have been. You lasted the test of time. Who's the biggest guys you ever opened for, like early on?
We opened for Rolling Stones.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's incredible. What was that like?
Well, they had come to see us play in these pubs in England when it caught on. There was maybe 10 shows that I can look back at now, that there's a little circuit in London. And we did these 10 shows in maybe the first, after we, like about a month. This would have been September, October of 1980.
Wow.
And like a lot of faces were coming. It's like if you did the Roxy and the Whiskey and the Viper Room, and like all within a month, and like everyone hears about it and slowly starts to come out. And the Rolling Stones came to see us, and they wanted to sign us to their label. And we met with them a few times, because all of this, we're meeting all these people, and we still have no money and nowhere to live.
Right.
We're somehow, I don't even remember how we did it, getting ourselves to these places, and had a drum kit. And I can't even remember exactly how we did it. I think there were some people helping us.
Where did you open for the Stones? Where did you guys do it?
So that was a year later. We opened for the Rolling Stones in 1981 here in the States, and we didn't have a record contract yet. A record we made was in 1980, and when you sign a record contract in England, there's the labels don't guarantee anyone a USA release, because it's a lot of work to break a band or break something in the States. So we had a record contract as if we were English, but we were American. So the Stones were very nice. They brought us to the States, and we went, we played. Again, we didn't make any money, and they helped us a little bit, like with food.
Why wouldn't they give you guys a big payday to do something like that, though?
Because they could have really got anyone to do it. No one, I guess the Rolling Stones don't need to, no.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand that. But you guys would feel, a lot of great privilege. But at the same time, they respected you guys enough to open for me. You say, hey, guys, why don't you?
I think that they thought they gave us an opportunity, like you don't have because the deal with them to make a record for them didn't quite work out because we met them a few times. They came to our gig, but then it's a huge organization, and to wrangle it all again was very difficult. So, like a few other labels wanted it, so we went with them. And Dave Edmonds, who wound up being our producer, he came, and it all just kind of clicked with them. But the Stones still liked us, and they toured the USA the next year, and they said, "Well, you guys can open up. It's a good opportunity if you get yourselves here." And which was kind of cool because
they wouldn't even pay for your fucking travel.
They don't pay anything.
No, man.
And it was their gigs were every 3 days kind of thing. So we were stuck in the USA, in the Midwest, and now they're legendary. We had to find our own gigs in between their huge shows. So like we wound up doing Tiny Club in Chicago, Tiny Club in Minneapolis, Tiny Club in St. Louis, that are now, who was ever there, it was kind of an infamous show, because we were still on time.
Though you're going to open for the Rolling Stones. I mean, wasn't the whole experience of it kind of made you stop and think, wait a second, here, man, why the fuck are we looking for jobs somewhere? These guys are, did that cross your mind? I'm sure.
Yeah, and they were very nice to us. Like I said, we had met them the previous year, and they were very nice to us. And by the time we opened for them, we had made a record and had a success in England, Europe, and we'd been to Australia, we had been to Japan, but not so much around in the USA because our record contract was, even though we're Americans, the contract was based in London. So we didn't really have that much of an opportunity to play in the States yet. So now looking back, when we went and played with them, it was some type of funny groundswell, and the towns that we played with them started to play it on the radio. So we were getting airplay, say, in Minneapolis and in St. Louis, but not in Pittsburgh, because
so it'd be
it was
like
very
me as a
regional
young actor,
back
or
then.
someone said, hey, Humphrey Bogart wants you to play his cousin. Yeah. I would have said, fuck, I'd done it for free.
Exactly. But they were very nice to us. And it was a bit like it was a challenge because at that point we had a hit record in England, and we were doing 1,000-seaters or playing at festivals, third on the bill or whatever. So we didn't really have to resell ourselves. But when you played with the Stones in Clear Lake, Iowa, Rapid City, Iowa, 1981, they didn't have MTV yet. We weren't known in any way. So, and they're expecting to see the Rolling Stones. The lights go on. We have we have 2 amps and a drum kit in the middle of this enormous stage that they had, and it was crickets, and I had an orange cowboy suit, and like they didn't know it. I don't think they were quite ready for it yet in Middle America. So,
oh my God!
But even though it was very American music, and the Rolling Stones said, "We just sold your music back to you," that's what they told us, because they started out playing Buddy Holly and Howlin' Wolf and Eddie Cochran songs, and they were influenced by American music, Beatles and Stones, right? All the UK British invasion people were doing American rock and roll. So still, how do you convey that to 25,000 people who were there to see the Stones, and they didn't know us at all? So we had to every night not get killed and make it through the set, and we won every night. The audience, by the end of our 30-minute set, whatever it was, had warmed to us every single night, because we would banter a little bit. This is American rock and roll. We're playing American music. We're from New York. And the audience would scratch their head. And it's hard to convey that message in a huge place.
I guess so.
But we won the crowd every night. We didn't get killed. No one threw anything. We got through it somehow.
But setting it up must have been like crazy, though, in a big arena like that.
Yeah.
All you guys with your little equipment and stuff. I mean, and wow. I mean,
their people were helpful. I must say, besides actually paying us, they, being the Stones, were very nice to us. Their wives made sure we had food backstage. We had some dinky dressing room in an enormous arena with a bottle of water and one towel or whatever. But they were very, very nice to us, and their crew was helpful to us, and they were, because we knew them in London a little bit, and they were very nice.
They'd set you guys up and take you down and put you guys up.
Yeah. And I think we had one or two guys with us from England that worked for us all the time, like our regular crew. But the Rolling Stones crew was like, there's 300 people on a tour like that. We had the three of us and two guys driving us around, and we did gigs in between their gigs, which now are, historic. But at the time, we were just trying to get a little bit of extra money to get the gasoline to get to the next Rolling Stones show, kind of thing.
So you guys are out playing some little club somewhere, and meanwhile you're opening for the fucking Stones.
The next night, yeah, kind of thing. Yeah.
God.
But I guess that groundwork was good, because when the record got released in the States a year later, so our record came out in the States 2 years after it had come out in England, and we had done like 2 laps of the world on the first records in England, but in the States it hadn't been released yet. So when they released it, having played with the Stones was like a good, good for interviews and good, credibility.
You always hear that guys like in the music business, they like regret their contract, or they got a shitty contract. Or is that true? I mean, is it is it a situation where we got to get this record and we're going to sign up with these guys and they're going to take it all, but we've got to get going somewhere. I mean, does that really happen? They just own you for the rest of your fucking life after you
completely.
Sign up with these people?
And we were 3 people. We didn't have a manager. We didn't have anyone. When we got offered the record contract, we got a lawyer who someone told us to get, kind of thing. Like, again, it was all British, and we're Americans, and things would, and we, I think until relatively recently, we're on the same royalty rate as 1980. 40 years later, we were on the same royalty rate. And we had recouped very quickly because those records were hits. And but they never, they meaning the huge corporation, it was EMI and BMG, they never, you signed this? Yeah, I was 19 years old. Yeah, but you were legal. You had a lawyer.
So they hold it over your heads like that.
Yeah.
Even when you're big and you're making it,
yeah,
they can say, hey man, you signed that fucking thing.
Exactly.
Wow,
the
Jim.
4th generation of their lawyers, it wasn't the same guy, right? But that's what's there. BMG Corporation, when you did Rock This Town, you agreed to X%, I don't even know what it was, and it was, of course, much lower than a new artist would get.
So in that position, couldn't you just at some point say, I mean, you tell me, because I don't know, but you say, you know what, fuck you guys, man. You're fucking us over. You're taking advantage of us. We're going to go across the street. We met somebody else, and that's the way it is. Could you just not do that?
Well, they own the rights to the recording. Like, they owned Rock This Town.
So if you left, you wouldn't even be able to take it with you.
No, they would continue to, release the greatest hits. They are allowed to.
That's nuts, Jim.
But I think the rights reverted back to us just not that long ago. But I think we tried to renegotiate, and they were...
Rock This Town was your biggest hit at that time?
On that first record in England, there was Runaway Boys was the first one. That was the big hit. And then there was Rock This Town and Stray Cat Strut. From the same album, there was 3 big singles. And we had done a second album that had 2 top 40 hits. This is all around the world. And then when they released the record in America, it was a combination of the first 2 albums. And I think we did a couple of new tracks for it.
Who wrote those?
Runaway Boys was Brian and myself. Rock This Town was Brian's. Stray Cat Strut was Brian's. Rumble in Brighton was Brian and me. There was one that was a successful B-side that the 3 of us had written. So, I mean, everyone was in there, but the main singer and songwriter was usually the singer.
Did you guys fight, because Brian wrote something and you guys were playing, was Brian become, the guy and you guys were just with him? Or did you share alike?
Yeah, we share the gigs and the the T-shirts and the fees, and that's all an equal share, back then always. And whoever writes the song, it's publishing world, it's a separate thing. So really with that there wasn't any of a problem really, because everyone did okay from it eventually. We were all in it together kind of thing. And
what was your biggest year when you all sat down and went, fuck man, we're the Stray Cats?
That would have been after we came back here, 83, 84, 85, around those. That's when we got a house kind of thing. Before that, we're very young. That's the other thing. When all this is happening, we're 19 years old.
Wow, Jim. Yeah. I was like 27, by the time I got it on episodic television. It's funny looking back, isn't it? When you, like for me, it seems like I was always in a rush, like a big fucking hurry.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing with you guys?
Yeah. And I'm very grateful to really the whole thing. Like, the whole thing could have been over when I was 22, right?
Yeah.
20. It just could have been, we made some type of dent in pop culture that 100 years later, we're still doing tours. And we made a record a couple of years ago that got in Billboard, number 3 in Billboard charts for what it's worth now. And still very influential, and it's still...
You guys could get together
anytime
right now and go off and start like a whole thing again, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good feeling though, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful, because at the right time I heard Eddie Cochran, and it really, holy mackerel, the world kind of stopped spinning for a second. For me, it was Elvis Presley, the Sun era of Elvis Presley. When I saw, I mean, this with Humphrey Bogart or Robert Mitchum, you had to wait till they were on TV or somehow. How did you even watch it? On Betamax or whatever.
TV.
So yeah, but it was once a month when it,
be at my mom's sister's house.
Would be on. Like,
you couldn't on the fucking floor watch RCA.
Right. But like, you couldn't dial up Out of the Past whenever you wanted it to. You had to somehow. So that's what I'm kind of remembering. Eventually doing the legwork and finding Johnny Burnett record or Elvis Presley first thing, and seeing the photographs. Holy mackerel! And everything became clear for a minute. So it would have been 1979, then to 78 maybe, when like, okay, this is what I got to do. Hopefully it's what, it became with the other two, but I knew that somehow, some way I had to do that era and that look and that sound. It was really kind of affected me. It became very clear, which I'm grateful for. A lot of kids, a lot of people still don't know what they want to do, and their time goes past,
Oh, we're both fathers,
I knew it
man.
that minute. I was 18 years old. I knew exactly what I had to do.
Who's the one musician that you got a chance to meet that you were the most surprised or impressed by? You ever meet Elvis?
No. I was very close to George Harrison. He was my friend.
Okay, that's cool.
That's my
really cool.
buddy.
You know Eric Clapton?
Yes. Very
That's
well.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Eric has always been so fascinating.
He's beautiful. And it's all because, again, that's why I have such gratitude to the other two and to Carl Perkins and to Eddie Cochran. Just the idea, because when I met Eric Clapton, when I met George Harrison, it was through Carl Perkins. Carl Perkins liked us, and he was doing a thing that he needed a backing band for, and he gave us the job, and we're backing Carl Perkins up, and George Harrison joins him, and Eric Clapton joins him, and we were vouched for kind of by Carl Perkins.
Yeah.
So I became friendly with George. I was a Beatles guy. Anyone is, really. I mean, everyone has to be on some level. It's in your DNA. After anyone born in the 60s or the 70s, it's just in you somehow. And I had gone back and found what the rockabilly and the Beatles was. So when I met George, it was like he liked me, and I was able to, stay in touch with the guy. And I always had a friendship with him. After that, 1985 is when I met him.
You stay friends with people like that? You stay friends?
Yeah.
You stay friends with me, for God's sakes. And I mean, I of everybody else, Brian and Lee, and I'm not really friends with either one of them. So, but you were always around, and you were always cool.
I was always the social one in a funny way.
But you're cool though. It's not like you're just a social guy,
Right.
That you have that way about you. I admired it, and I would dig it that and then there was the Deanna problem and all that. I never asked you what year, and you were married to Britt Eklund, for fuck's sake, right? What year was that? Was Deanna and Brian together when you were married to Britt?
After. During the same time, but I was married to Britt before.
Okay,
I met Britt in 1982.
Because those two traveled all over the place, Deanna and Britt.
Yeah, they became friendly through me, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So what was the Peter Sellers thing? Like, did you meet Peter? Or
No,
what
no,
the
no.
fuck happened with that?
By the time I met Britt, I think he had passed away already.
Okay.
I met Britt 1982. And I didn't quite know who anyone was really outside of rock and roll. I mean, if I had met Betty Davis, I would have known it was her. But like besides that, I just really knew people in music. I didn't really know.
Well, we're both fathers. I mean, do you have a kid with Britt?
Yes, TJ.
You have TJ. Yeah, okay.
That's how you and I stayed friendly because
Our kids.
TJ was childhood, boyhood, infanthood friends with Cody.
Okay.
And you guys lived in LA, and I continued to encourage TJ to be friends with Cody.
You were
And
good
that's when
about
we
it,
used to
though.
come
You were
up to
good
your
about
house.
it. A lot of people like Chad and other actors I know with kids and musicians and people that are successful that have kids, they were never good about keeping the friendships going, you know? What do you think about our kids, like as fathers? Like, it's a giant question, but I don't hear any music anywhere lately that's even memorable, or I can even say is memorable. And our sons, my sons, seem like they have a really hard time because you and I set the bar pretty high for what we did.
Sure.
And our kids now kind of don't know what to do with themselves. Maybe you can help me because I struggle with them because
Sure.
what are we going to do?
That's a tough one. In our case, TJ and Cody, I encouraged them, and I don't even know if I had words for it. And now I'm a little bit, maybe better able to explain things. But they knew each other since they were literally 2 years old.
Yeah.
I have pictures of Cody being 2 years old holding TJ, who's 8 months old, right? There's photographic evidence of it. So I encourage that because for me, how many people are you going to know your whole life? I had the other two that we went on to, I've known them, Lee and Brian, since I was 5-7 years old, and we worked together. So I think it's cool to like have that. I think when you're 30, like TJ, when you're 30, you're going to say, this is my friend. I've known him since I was 4 years old.
But as dads,
there's not that many that you're ever going to have. So I tried to encourage that.
Did you encourage CJ to be a musician? Does he want to
no,
be?
he
'Cause all my kids want to be actors, and it's not
Yeah.
going to work out. Max is probably going to work out for Max, but the rest of them not even interested in it. They could care less. They know Dad's in a movie. And
Yeah, that's how it was.
like that
TJ
for
was
you? Is
very
it-
good at playing the drums, but it's very hard to make it. I mean, this is LA. It's the hardest thing in the world to be in a band that makes it, or be an actor that makes it, or it's a painter that makes it. Imagine trying to do that. Like it's, I think it's the hardest thing in the world. And my son was really good at it, probably better than me at the drums, but and he was very close a few times. He wanted a more steady kind of thing. So he went into chefing, to cooking, and he's worked at some nice place. And now he lives in Sweden, and he works for a billionaire family,
He's
which
doing
is a
very
beautiful
well.
thing.
I know TJ's doing very well.
He is. But everyone went through the thing of trying, and like, how do you tell someone that they can, like the three of us, we went around saying, we're going to be the biggest band in the world someday. We're going to be Beatles. And like, how would you not scoff at that? You know what I mean? Like, it's the most impossible. I mean, I'm happy it worked out because then I could say I was right, but it is an insane dream,
It sure is, man. It sure is. And the kids for me have been the best, greatest years of my life were when all the guys were little. When I was living on the beach with all the little boys running around.
Sure.
You and me were hanging around and laughing in the driveway. Now they're grown up and I'm, getting older and everything changes like so abruptly. And you want to hold on to whatever this magic was that you had or got given somehow, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard. Like, we used to come to your house because I lived right on the strip, right? I lived there. 2 bachelor boys, TJ and me. So going to your house every Sunday for 100 years, it was like, for me, going to the country, it was good for TJ. He ran with the other boys and like they had their thing, and it was, I think, a beautiful thing, It
was, man. I have great memories of all that. I wish we would have shot more movies of, I wish we would have shot more film of us hanging out and stuff. We'd have more pictures and more film of us when we were together during those years. I've seen some videos, and I have some old stuff of you and me on the beach, but it was a rare thing. I wish we had more of it. Some of it, when you see it now, it's so nostalgic, so melancholy, right? It's
and there, the kids are like, oh well, we think it's cooler than they do, and that's how it should be. I think
true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, 'cause my guys are bored as hell. They were on the sets with me, and these big pictures I was doing, and now they just don't give a shit.
Right.
Like, I'm going to speak at Malibu High next week, to the film class of Malibu High School. They're watching Free Willy and Reservoir Dogs, and I'm going to go in there and sit down in front of the high school with Luke sitting there next to me, and they're going to ask me about, making movies, and to me, it's like, I never imagined doing that. And then I think, do they really give a damn? And to a certain degree, I mean, maybe they do or maybe they don't.
They're going to want to know about Johnny Depp, that's for sure. They're going to want to know about Johnny, that's for sure.
Well, yeah.
He's the winner everywhere.
But why, though? You know what I'm saying? It's that's a phenomenon in itself.
Yeah, he's beautiful. He's awesome. He's a rockabilly guy. He comes to all the Straight Cast shows since day one. How I met him was a funny one. He was a musician. And he was in a band.
He always seems like a fake musician to me.
But he's been doing it a long time, man. He's good. He was in a band.
But he's got to hang out with somebody cool, or else no one gives a damn. If he's on the stage with you guys, or he's up there with Keith Richards, there's Johnny Depp. I can't imagine anybody coming to see him if he just stand there by himself.
He's allowed, I think. I think he's good.
No, you're being nice, though, man. I understand.
When I met him, he's a musician. He's a guitar player in a band in Florida that was opening shows for the Stray Cats. This is 1982, 83.
And I don't think anybody knows that.
And I liked them. They were a band, an opening act, and I liked their band. I watched them. And then they were on the bill for a week or something like that. And I looked, and they were traveling in a van. And by that time, we had a bus. So it was 82, 83, 84. So I said, "You just come with me on the bus." I liked the guy. He was a good guitar player. I thought it was fine, And so he came with me on the bus. And it was for a week, and then you don't see anyone. And then X amount of years later, I see him in L.A. And, wow. Dude, you're that guy. Oh, dude, you're that guy. And he had done to do his TV show at Jump Street. And then he got involved with the Viper Room, and I was in the Cat Club across the street. No. But then we had a connection because we know each other, and he had a nightclub up there, I had a nightclub up there. So we always
stayed your club. You had the
Cat Club.
The Cat Club, is it still there?
No.
Because I remember you showed it to me one day, and I would drive up Sunset, and I'd always look over to see if it was still there. How long did you have that?
I had it from 99 to 2015.
So having your own club must have been really was that something you always wanted to do?
No, it was good and bad. It was a little bit generated by bit with the kids. That was the thing that I knew how to do as a day job. I couldn't be on the road. I didn't really want to be even then that much. Playing with the Stray Cats is awesome. You're in an elevated place and it's all cool. When you're not that going on your own, I'm very grateful that I made a name that I could go out and do clubs but it's a hard way to do it. And TJ was little, so I was trying to find things that I could stay home.
Was it worth having a club?
Opportunity came along with someone I knew that knew someone to get involved in a nightclub. And now, it's right down the street. I can kind of relate to it.
I mean,
I can relate to it.
Was it worth having it? Do you miss not having it?
No, I kind of miss. You miss the good things. Like I had a key to a place on Sunset Boulevard. You could always have a bathroom. You could always, if you were out, I'll drive past there. I miss being able to let people use the place to rehearse. We used to play every Thursday, a bit of an all-star thing. But the daily, when I go there, then I try to also remember it was a grind. It was like, the rent and the employees and the liquor sales and the bands and it was a lot of responsibility. But I didn't have to go on the road, and it was something that I could relate to. And I had a couple partners who were good guys. They were good at the business part of it. I was the face of it, but we all worked. There are certain things I miss about it and certain things I don't.
No, I get it, man. I get it. Are you predominantly living around L.A. now?
Yeah, Beverly Glen for a long time.
And you're married again now?
Yeah, my wife plays in a band called Eagles of Death Metal.
I met your wife. She's a very nice girl.
She rock and roller, so she knows the business. We've been married like a while now. We have a strong connection. She's a musician and rock and roller.
Well, you guys look good together, man.
Yeah, she's great. Because if someone who's not in the business, in like any business, if your partner doesn't really understand what you do, it's the same for both. For them understanding us understanding them, whoever it. So, I think it helps.
Who do you know now musically that you like think about or respect? Oh, hey, they're pretty good. Or that fucking guy's pretty good. Or she's good. Who is it? Who would that be? To Slim Jim, the fucking Jim Phantom. Like when you hear new artists on the radio or you hear a song. I mean, who do you like now that's around?
I don't know.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
And I don't know if it's really them or if it's me. I don't know how much I go out and look for it. I have a radio show every week for Sirius. I work for Stevie Van Zandt on Underground Garage.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this 7 years now. Good. Wow. So I usually try to find a couple of new kind of rockabilly groups to play. Every week. Reverend Horton Heat's really good. I've been playing their new stuff. I usually try to find a band every week that's a new...
I guess it's just a different generation now, man. Like, I don't think an actor like me now would have a chance. Do you think Stray Cats could, like today,
yeah, I think
you think you guys could do the same thing like you did way back then?
I think so.
That's amazing. I
think the Stray Cats could, yeah, because I think it's too good to be limited to what... I think the Stray Cats, personally, now I'm old enough that I don't care what I mean... I think we would have made it in the 50s. I think we would have made it in the 60s. I think we made it in the 70s because it's extraordinary. I think anyone would have saw us do that, and it's a bit like I think Beatles would make it if they started right now.
Wow.
I think Elvis Presley would make it if he started right now.
Yeah, for him, maybe.
I think a few extraordinary ones, but certain ones are very generational. There's great records from the 60s. Would they have made it outside of the British invasion? I'm not quite sure.
How many times have you, walked into a restaurant or you in a shopping center somewhere, driving down the car, and all of a sudden there's a Stray Cat song come on?
A lot.
It's pretty cool, right?
Because it's classic rock now. I think the eras of things, like certain formats, like certain radio stations play some things that are, I don't know.
Yeah.
And now I guess we're of that age. We're the new oldies in a funny way,
That's
so what about you? It must happen all the time.
Well, yeah,
everyone's going to ask you if you're going to cut their ear off or something.
I get it one of two ways. It's either like, holy shit, man, it's him. It's that motherfucker, man. It's that guy. Yeah. Wait a while, man. Well, don't say anything to him because, wow, it's him, right? Or I get the, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
He looks familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I know this motherfucker?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I know that guy?
Right.
Or it's like, who does he think he is, that guy? Man, who does he think he's an actor or something? Or what the fuck? I mean, you never know, right?
You get the ones that
it's
think
impossible.
you must be somebody, but they don't know who.
Yeah, or they say, I know you, from what's your name again? And he said,
do you care
John
anymore?
Flaherty,
Yeah.
It's like,
I resigned myself to it. It's too hard to come up with a wisecrack. But now it's just, yes, that's me. The Stray Cats, Rock This Town, that's me.
Yeah.
You want to take a picture?
So much
I'm happy
easier,
to sign. It's much easier. It's pretty cool.
It's
when
good.
you were in acting school, when I was taking drum lessons, would you even ever thought of it? I'm going to be in a movie with Al Pacino. Never in a million years.
No, I didn't. I imagined it. I thought that I should be.
Yes.
But I never.
Yes.
The circumstance been created. No, that's not going to happen for me.
How could it? It's the craziest thing.
My father's a fireman.
Yeah.
I'm blue collar from Chicago.
Yeah, same here.
I was a fucking idiot kid. I was in trouble all the time. And
yeah.
I was stealing cars, for Christ's sake, and breaking into people's houses. I was, You know, I mean, it was ridiculous.
Second story, man. You see,
Yeah, well,
you got the
exactly.
right parts.
Yeah, second story's good. You can always get in. I could get in anywhere, basically. I mean, I still could. You know, I automatically figure it out for some reason. I don't know why. But I can get out and get in, you know.
Now we figure out how to get a table at a restaurant. It's the same logic applies somewhere.
How things would work out like that. I didn't graduate high school. You know, I wanted to build race cars, for Christ's sakes, you know. I wanted to be Richard Petty.
Sure. Still.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm still
That's even
mesmerized.
harder. How do you do that? I mean, you can get a drum kit and go and practice in the room. How do you get a race car and practice?
I was going to build the goddamn things and drive it. I had a Road Runner, and I was going to take it out to the quarter-mile track, and I was going to start breaking some speed records, and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and
Yeah.
he was my hero, you know.
That's even
I don't know
harder.
where these
I think.
thoughts come from. You know, I don't know. My dad would look at me and, you gonna do what? What is this thing about acting are you crazy?
Yeah.
And I'd look at him and go, well, I don't know. My dad said to me once, you know, the odds of you making it as an actor. He would drop me off in the car.
Sure.
He gave me a little plastic sandwich bag, a zip bag, full of quarters. It was his laundromat quarters, and he gives them to me when I get out of the car. I was going to California, and he goes, "Hey, you want to need that?" And I realized it was his laundromat change. And I was like, "Wow, Dad, well, thanks, you know." And he goes, "You know, the odds of you making it in Hollywood are like 100 million to 1." And I said, "Wow, well, you know, maybe I'm that one."
Yeah, somebody has to be. That's what I thought at a young age as well. Somebody has to do it. Every guy in the New York Yankees came from somewhere, right? Robert Mitchum came from somewhere. I knew James Dean came from a tiny town in Indiana. I kind of knew that. Has to be somebody.
I don't know, Jim. I think you're a talent, and you're my friend. You're a fucking legend in your own time. I gotta believe that there's somebody up there likes us, man. For some
Has to be,
fucking reason. Who
right?
knows?
It really has to be. And then it's good.
Yeah.
Right? So we were right. Reservoir Dogs is amazing, right? Rock This Town is amazing. I can be a fan of myself in a funny way. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, kind of step back, make believe you never heard this song before, and put it on the radio. That's what happens to me sometimes. It comes on the radio because I can't put it on purpose. That's a little hard. And then I think, this is pretty damn good, man. I see why it made it.
I never want to
see
watch
Donnie Brasco. I know that's a later one, but like, I'm telling you as your buddy, and like trying to be neutral at the same time. It's really good, right? So that's holds up, I think.
That's a giant compliment to me. See, because the songs that you made and the music you did to me is so much bigger than movies to me. But for you to sit there and say that, I never want to watch Donnie Brasco. I wouldn't purposely put it on the TV.
It's pretty
for
good.
a couple of years, I didn't do that. But if I see it now, I go, fucking hell, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't I know it at the time? Was that happen to you at all?
Yeah,
Or
that's the
at
state
time
I
you were
am
doing
in
this
life
stuff?
now. I don't know if I was embarrassed by it or thinking like maybe a little bit resentful, like, all right, it's on the radio. Where's all the money? How come I'm still, like that used to, now that doesn't go in there anymore. It's like, whatever. It's meant for it to be for a certain reason. Now I get to see us appreciate something,
That's fascinating, Jim. That's really fascinating. So many things I've never asked you about. We've known each other for years, and I never
But you
asked
thought you would be in a
any of these
movie
questions.
with Al Pacino. I mean, he was already big when we were kids, right? I already knew Serpico, and you're the same age as me, right?
Yeah.
So, like, he was already famous, right?
Well, I wouldn't read for the part, and because I knew if I did, I wouldn't get it. Because I'm terrible at that. I can't. You might be that way with your music. I can't, prove to someone that I can do it.
I couldn't get the job in a band. Like, even in school, there was 5 guys that played faster than me. I don't know if I could get the job as go on audition to be the drummer. I don't think I would get it. You had to do something around what you know how to do, and that's
Yeah.
I mean, they were hiring Michael Madsen to be in the movie. They weren't hiring some guy
I
who's trying
couldn't
it out.
audition. I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I thought I was being put upon. It seemed odd. What are you going to ask me? You know that I can do it.
Yeah.
For fuck's
Yeah.
sake. Why do I have to show you that? And it was arrogant, but some things I never would have done if I would have said, okay, I'll all right, John, let's go get in the car.
Yeah.
Wait a second, where's the girl? Yeah. I wouldn't have got the job, you see. It wouldn't have happened. I had to meet Al to get in Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
Because at first I said, I'm not going to read. They said, well, you're not doing it. For like 3 or 4 weeks, they were going to another actor. And they kept saying, Michael, please, just, and the guys, if I do that, you're going to say no. And so, what's the difference?
So is this him reaching out? Did you speak to him before you read?
They finally said, will you meet Al?
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah.
That I can
fuck
do.
Yeah, who would
I agree. That I could do.
Guy?
Yeah.
They flew me to New York, and there's him standing in his office with his back to me, looking out the window.
Yeah.
And I come in the room, he's in there. They said, he's in there. The door's closed, and he's in there. Now, what do you mean he's in there? He yells in there. Okay, so should I go in there? And they're like, well, yeah, he's waiting for me. They're like, well, he knows you're here. I'm like, all right, man. I go in there and I close the door, and he's looking out the fucking window with his back to me. You read the script? I'm like, yeah, I did. It was like 10 minutes of talking about absolutely nothing, and finally he said, okay, is that it? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. All right, okay.
And then you were playing his boss, too, which was a funny one, right?
And I left. I went back to the hotel. I said, man, that's never going to happen. Fuck, it's over for me. They ring. Hey, Michael, Albert likes you, and you're going to do the movie.
Yeah, amazing.
Go figure. I mean, what was the big deal there?
Because he's one of those guys. I met him maybe twice, relatively recently. He was friends with a neighbor of mine. They invited us to some screening, and I met him, I've been around. I was friends with Beatles, and that kind of thing. But it's something. I think it's human nature when it's not your. Like if I meet a ball player, I'm still like, holy mackerel, I can't do that. Or if I meet an actor, I can't do. So maybe it's outside of your own field. When you're impressed by someone more, because I watch someone play the drums and I might not be able to do exactly, but I kind of know what it is and like. But actor, and Al was one that I met not that long ago, a couple of years ago, last year even. He was friends with a neighbor of ours who invited us to some small screening of one of his movies, and I met him afterwards.
Yeah.
And we wound up talking about the Yankees for a minute, and he was one of those, holy mackerel, it's hard not to.
It's very hard not to. I mean, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
He's a normal fucking cat.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that much to say usually. And, when he does, it's never really some profound thought or something, but it's hard to get away from the fact that he is that thing.
Yeah. He's Serpico. He's Michael. You know what I mean? It's like, for me, I'm a TV movie guy at the end of the day.
You're Slim Jim, man. I'm looking at you. I'm thinking, there's that guy. I'm a straight cat, man.
Exactly.
He's my friend, That's it.
And so, did you have a similar thing with Quentin? Was he like, because you had done that, you were in kind of thing? He was hiring because he knew you, right?
Quentin put me in Reservoir Dogs before I even met him.
Yeah.
I got the script, and they said,
smart.
Listen, this guy wants you to do this part. And I go, well, who is he? And they go, well, nobody knows who he is, and nobody's in the movie, and they don't have any fucking money. So, Michael, honestly, you should just, give it a pass. But we have to show you this because they asked for you. And I said, wow, I think it's really good. I never read anything like that before. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I actually wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I wanted to play Mr. Pink. I thought he had more dialogue. I knew Harvey from Thelma and Louise.
Right.
So I already knew Harvey. And when I found out he was going to be Mr. White, all of a sudden then I became more interested in doing the movie. And then I finally met Quentin because I auditioned for a different part because I didn't want to play Mr. Blonde. And Quentin let me audition for a different role. And he stood in the back of the room like this the whole time, watching me do Mr. Pink scenes and just nodding his head and watching me. And finally he goes, are you done? Are you done? Is that it? And I go, well, yeah. And there's Harvey Keitel. He'd been reading with me for Mr. Pink. And he goes, Michael, listen, you're not Mr. Pink. He pointed at me like that. You're not Mr. Pink. And I said, wow, well, okay. I said, well, you know, and I thought that was it. I got up, I was leaving. And he goes, God damn it, you're Mr. Blonde or you're not in the fucking movie.
That was the first you heard about that, right?
Well, yeah. I said, well, Jesus Christ, you're going to put it that way. Well, I love the writing. And yeah, I'd love to do it.
I think he's awesome.
He is interesting, isn't he?
Yeah,
he made my career, my whole my life.
Just you know? I want to meet him.
I'll set it up.
When his book came out, I mean, I felt great. It's my little. He was doing the round of interviews, and he did one for Sirius XM on the channel that I work for. He did it to a Stevie Van Zandt, who's the boss of my channel. He's the owner of the channel, and he was doing an interview with Stevie. And, you know, Stevie was talking to him about a few things, and then Quentin almost interrupts and says, I love your channel. Slim Jim is my favorite guy. I met him in Tower Records in 1982. He was walking around, and he didn't know me, but he was recommending records to me, and I've always thought he was cool, and I've always held on to this. And he's like, butting into Stevie, trying to ask him questions about the specific book. And and I happened to catch it on the radio, you know, my wife, and it was still kind of a proud moment. Even though it was my wife, she said, Quentin Tarantino's talking about you on the radio. And we, you know, dialed it in. And like, he said, if Slim Jim's out there, I want him to try to, you know, I love his show. I listen every week. And this is to the boss. It was good for me as well, the boss of the channel.
Sure, yeah.
So he's a rockabilly guy.
Well, God damn it, you know, I'm not surprised that he thought you were the best one out of the bunch, and I was for sure telling him that we did this.
But I mean, how would
together.
You know if you didn't know? How would you know that he goes home and listens to obscure rockabilly music?
Yeah,
and I must admit, I didn't remember meeting with Tower Records in '82, but I'm happy to rekindle the memory when I meet him.
He claimed that he saw me in some TV show, and how would I have ever known in my mind that he would even bother with it?
Yeah, he's got to be right.
Why fucking notice
He's a
me?
smart guy. He would remember. I wouldn't question
he's like
guys
that.
like him. I wouldn't question their memories.
He's like right. that. He really is.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised to hear that about you.
And that's why
he's really good about it. He'll never forget you, by the way. When you heard him say that, that's forever that he's going to feel that way about you.
He's one of the ones who we were talking about, like, I think would have made it in any time. I think if he was a filmmaker in the 40s, he would have made it. Everyone just has to come of the legal age that you're allowed to do things. But I think he was one of the ones that would have made it in any era.
Did you ever do any acting, for Christ's sake?
I was in one movie with 2 scenes, and the director was Clint Eastwood, and my scene partner was Forrest Whitaker.
What fucking movie was that?
It was a movie called Bird. It was the life story of Charlie Parker.
Okay, yeah.
And they needed someone to play the drums and then talk to Charlie Parker after the gig kind of thing.
Wow.
And I went and did it. And, Clint Eastwood, I have a funny story. He was very, very nice. And someone was asking me to move out of the way. And they said, excuse me, what's it? I said, Clint Eastwood stopped and said, don't you know who that is? That's Slim Jim. So I said, thanks, Mr. Eastwood. He said, call me Clint. I said, thanks, Clint. It was right around here at some old recording studio. They were making the biopic about Charlie Parker, and I played the drummer.
I'm going to have to look for it now, man. I'd love to see that now. That's a great fucking story, Jimmy, man. Wow.
But I could do it now.
Super cool.
Back then, I was so nervous, and it really wasn't my wheelhouse. Now I think I could do it,
Oh, I think you could for sure, man. You have an interesting quality about you. Yeah.
Doing lines.
Yeah. Somebody told you to move out of the way, huh? That's funny.
and then I was friends with Harry Dean, was my best pal, And
we share the Family Feud phenomenon.
Yes.
I used to sit with him and watch Family fucking Feud
every day
and smoke cigarettes. What was the deal with that?
Every day. And
what was the deal with the Family
when
Feud?
I was away. Harry, I'm in Brazil. I'm in France right now. He would call 3 o'clock in the morning. You're missing it. Harry, I'm not in L.A. I'll be home next week. And we watch it over the phone. watch it at his house when I was home. I would go there every day. But there's a few of us. Ed Begley is another one. Sean Penn, you, Jamie James, me. There's a little inside gang of the game show with Harry Dean. Like it's a.
He had tapes of it. He had VHS of the Richard Dawson episodes.
Yeah.
And why couldn't he have the robe on and sit there, put the pile of cigarettes on the table, and we watched Family Feud, and he's silent through the fucking thing.
Yeah. He loved it. He loved the pyramid too, $100,000 pyramid, and he loved Family Feud.
Oh man, when you told me that story, I figured Jim has got to be the only guy in my whole life I've ever known that understands that I would watch Family Feud with Harry Dean.
Yeah. He would call me sometimes and said, Harry, I can't make it over there today. And then, come on, you're missing it. Do your duty, Slim. I said, Harry, call Sean Penn to come over. I said, ha ha, very funny, Slim. I said, no, really, call Sean Penn. Call Bono. Have them, they're your buddies. Have them come over. Ha ha, Slim, very funny. And he would never quite engage the answer. But I know those are pals, and everybody knows. But he would have certain, duties for certain friends.
Yeah. He would grab my
Family
hand.
Feud.
Did he do that to you? He'd grab your hand? I'd come in, he'd grab my hand.
Yeah.
We'd walk together holding hands and sit on the couch.
Yeah.
It was so genuine.
He was one of the first people I ever met when I came here to LA, 1981, to play at the Roxy. And he was one of the people that was on the rocks, and we used that as a dressing room.
Wow.
And
I
met him and just stayed in touch with him for the next 45 years,
He came to Deanna's birthday party at the Marmont. And he sat there on the couch and played the guitar singing till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's what he loved. He loved to sing and play. And then we did the little band with he and myself and Jamie James and Jeff Baxter up at the old Roxbury Club. If you remember that, we did it every Friday for like a year or so.
Ely Samaha.
He loved it.
That's a wonderful story, Jimmy. God, man.
Yeah, he was one of those guys. He did make it in the 40s and the 50s.
Now that he's passed away, I'm sitting there watching TV sometimes, and all of a sudden there he is on Bonanza, the Rifleman.
Yeah.
He's on Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit, it's fucking Harry Dean. He had to have been 25 years old in some of those shows.
He would never watch it. I would call it when we would watch Family Feud over there on the phone sometimes. In the commercial, he would change the channel. So I was on the phone with him one time, and on the classic movie channel, it was his first movie. The name of it escapes me for a second, but Ava Gardner was in it, Alan Ladd, and Harry has blonde hair, and he plays the evil son of the rancher kind of thing. And I called him, Harry, to the next commercial, put on channel 631, you're on. And he watched it for like 10 seconds, and then he wanted to go back to, he didn't care. He genuinely didn't.
Like, he would say the funniest things about people. We had a conversation once about whether or not you come back as another person, like when you're dead. And he was sitting very quiet, and he was listening to everybody. Everybody had their opinion about something. And all of a sudden, he just got really irritated. He's like, you know what? When you're gone, you're gone. You're not going to come back as a fucking squirrel. You're not going to come back as a praying mantis. You're not going to be some guy you used to know. And he stood up and he goes, when you're gone, that's it. And everyone was just staring at him like, wow. And he made this major statement.
Yeah, and of all people, him, who was always talking about, cosmic things. And he used to listen to Alan Watts on the cassette. He had the full box set, and he would lend it to. And then, the end of it, he couldn't be bothered talking about it. He wanted to.
Yeah, there's a great story about Marlon. Apparently, Marlon said that when he met Harry Dean, he liked him so much because he asked him one time, Harry, I'm Marlon Brando, what do you think of me? And apparently Harry said, I don't think of you at all. And Marlon loved him for saying that. But, it's him, right?
Yeah. Harry, I remember we were there so often, like you, in his little cabin. Once or twice, Marlon Brando, who I couldn't think of as being a real person, it's beyond for me. There's certain things that are beyond for me, right? Called Harry on the phone, and he put him on speakerphone. like Harry did with everyone. You were there 100 times and all these such. Marlon called and he put him on the speakerphone, and it was Marlon Brando on that. So, and Harry was aware. He respected Marlon Brando, and he was like, he really thought he was the best one. I probably was, right?
Well, that's nice.
And he definitely. So I heard Marlon Brando speak on the speakerphone once or twice, and Harry certainly respected him. And
Marlon called me an asshole on the phone. I was hanging out with Christian Brando. Me and Christian had our couple years of bad things, and Marlon called one time on the phone. And Christian didn't ever want to answer the goddamn phone. And when he'd point at the phone when it was ringing, what this meant, you pick it up. And so, I said, hello, and it's fucking Marlon. He said, put my son on the phone. And I'm like, Chris, you're dead, man. That motherfucker, Marlon Brando, is on the phone. Yeah. He just asked me to speak to his son. So pick up the fucking phone, Christian. He's like, so I go, well, he's kind of busy right now. You put my son on the phone. I said, holy shit. I said, Christian, pick up the goddamn phone.
Yeah.
So he runs in the other room and he picks it up. And I'm trying to be polite. I want to make sure he picked up. So I'm listening, And Marlon goes, who's that asshole that answered the phone? I was like, okay, Marlon Brando just called me an asshole.
Oh man, that's awesome.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, Jim. Then
we got a lot.
You told me some fascinating stuff, man. God damn it, it's really good to see you, pal.
Beautiful.
You're always welcome in my life or with my kids or
same here.
Anything you ever need from me, man. Please, I love it that you came today.
You got it, buddy.